Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Research Talk Qualitative Conversations. Today, we are not just talking to one of our qualitative scholars, but a member of our Research Talk consulting team, someone who we've known for a very long time. Happy to have as part of our group and family. So that is Dr. Kristin Black. She's going to say a little bit more about herself momentarily. I'm Ray Mayetta, president of Research Talk, and I am a sociologist. I had my PhD for couple of years. And back in the 90s, I did a research project on friendship. And now we're actually, when we have time, dabbling with another friendship project, this one looking at lifelong friends and just having this great time talking to two friends who've been friends for a long time. Anywhere between 20 and 66 is our longest friendship that we've had conversations with people. And it is just beyond fun. So I'm going to ask my colleague Paul Mijas to introduce himself, and then we'll go around and get started with the heart of the conversation momentarily. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Ray. I'm Paul Mijas. I'm a qualitative researcher and consultant at the Odom Institute at UNC Chapel Hill. And I'm also co-teaching a 2-hour psych course this summer on coding and analysis with my colleague Karen Campbell.
Thank you so much, Paul. And Jeff.
Thanks, Ray. I'm Jeff Petrozelli. I've been with Research Talk since 2001 as a qualitative research specialist.
Thank you so much. Kristin, tell us a little bit about your professional background.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Kristin Black, and I am currently an assistant professor at UNC Chapel Hill in the Gilman School of Global Public Health, where I describe myself as a maternal health equity scholar. I love using mixed methods, particularly qual. It's like, that's my jam, in terms of what speaks to me and being able to really think about stories in the lives of birthing people. And I went to UNC 2 times over. I'm a double grad, got my master's and my PhD from there. And so it's nice to be in this kind of welcoming community to do this work.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And you started hanging out with us at Research Talk over
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah, it's the only way I got my dissertation done. It was by being with y'all and hanging out and taking your classes. And now I've like wedded into the family and loving it, being a research consultant and especially being involved in the QRSI over all these years.
That's wonderful. Great. So you mentioned stories, and there's a big part of that happening in the course you're offering on July 29th at the Summer Intensive. And the title of that course is Story-Based Systems Analysis, and how individual, it's story-based systems analysis, how individual stories illuminate the inner workings of complex systems. A wonderful dynamic going on there. So we wanted to just start and have you talk a little bit about how that course came to be. And you and I had a conversation as we were building the schedule for the summer, and I asked you what your interests were, if you wanted to teach something you've taught before, if there was something new, and you didn't hesitate. So it would be great if you just share a little bit about the background and kind of why you see this course as kind of, this one's got to come up now.
No, yeah, it's actually really good timing because I do a lot of my work looking at structures and looking at particularly healthcare system. And we're always thinking of new ways to look at how structural inequities exist and how they show up in these systems. And so through different research projects I've done over the years, we've practiced different techniques on trying to really get at that using qualitative research. And so when I was talking to Ray, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this practice. It's not like written anywhere. We published something about our technique that I've done with the Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative of using mapping, and then I've expanded on that in my own research. And I was like, it would be great to share this with other people because I would mention these projects to people in my other classes, and they were always like, well, how did you do that? How did you map that? And they want to know more about that. I was like, but the class is not about that. So I could only share a little bit. So this was like an opportunity to actually like dig more into the practice of it and how to use it. And I thought it'd be a useful technique for people who are just trying to expand how they look at and analyze data, especially if they're really focused on some type of system.
And people look at the course title and some of them become a little intrigued with this notion of individual stories illuminating workings of complex systems and thinking about like, well, how's that come about? But that's more than just kind of the how-to. That's philosophical on your part too. As a scholar, it means a lot, and you're kind of merging your scholarly beliefs and feelings and knowledge with the methods, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I really see individual stories more than just that person's individual experience. By people talking about their everyday lives, you can learn a lot about the different systems that they come in contact with every day. And so I wanted to really harp on that ability that individual stories could be used to learn about other things that people encounter that you can't always hone in on if you didn't really listen to them um, like their firsthand account of how they've entered that system, been a part of that system, or how troubles, challenges, all the different things. So you get to hear more context, which has been really nice component of really diving more into structural inequities.
So you are in a public health department and absolutely kind
Yes,
of fit that really comfortably, but very clearly you're a social scientist as well.
yes, yes,
And I
absolutely.
think always have been in terms of just, as you and
Hmm.
I talk about stuff, it's clear to me that that's a part of who you are. And when you think about this idea of inner workings of complex systems, what was particularly challenging for you? And, I sense that the arrival of this approach for you kind of comes from, hey, this is something I've been thinking about for a while. So, what were some of the challenges as you entered into projects, knowing I have to understand these inner works and systems more deeply? So,
Yeah, well, the reason this all came about, like I started doing this was in collaboration with a community medical academic partnership I've been a part of for over 15 years, and they've been together over 20, the Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative. And we were working on a project that was looking at systems change. And through collection of focus groups, we were able to look at what individuals were saying, what the groups were saying, but then we were like, but we really want to know about these critical pieces along their journey. And these were all cancer patients. And so we played with different things. We actually used a map in the focus groups to help ground people on like who they may have come in contact to during the cancer system. And we're like, so why don't we use that for our analysis? Like, how can we use that? And so then we started putting the stories in in the different sections of the system that they or the journey that they would go along and started seeing patterns and trends and what people were saying. We're able to look at black versus white patients, the differences, look at breast versus lung, and look at things in a different way than we could have. We could have done matrices maybe, but to get that system piece of it, like where things were occurring at what point, was really critical. And so I've been really building on that idea of how to use that in other analyses I've done since then.
it sounds like it's not just offering new insights. Am I going in the wrong direction to say it sounds like it's kind of fun?
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's important, right? And so
Hmm.
when you're doing this, it's not something you only do alone. So it seems like
So,
that interaction with colleagues while it's happening is
mhm.
also critical to what's happening and how it works.
Absolutely. Like I would do like most of my work in the foundation is community engagement. And so I believe that they should be fully involved in every step of the way. And so through partners that I've had, along with other colleagues who have backgrounds in research, like we've worked together to kind of create different ways of looking at the data. So I think it's like it wouldn't have been as strong as it was without other insights and perspectives from people who are not like me, who are not academics, because they provide a lens that I can't offer.
It's great too because similar to a course that Kevin Swartout, who all of us know really
Mhm.
well, is offering, moving beyond teamwork. He's talking about collaborative research. So
Yeah.
there's so much that you're utilizing, really thinking of all the resources we have for learning that
Mhm.
qualitative provides a wonderful umbrella for. You were talking, you referenced a project, and what I'm about to put forward you could be for that project or any, but we're just wondering if you have like an outcome that came from a story-based systems project or cool
Mhm.
field story or outcome quotation, anything. So just kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of sampling of here's something that came forward in this project as data examples, and then here's what we were able to do and put forward as a result.
Mhm. Well, one really interesting thing about this, like and I'm gonna talk about the project I've been talking about because it's a good
Right.
example, but it was we were asking people about their experience in the healthcare system, and everybody initially always says, "Yes, it was great. I had these wonderful people. The doctors are great, and like all the things you would expect." But when you really talk to people and ask them more questions, start digging, you saw that there was other things going on that they didn't like directly pull up. So one example that was very and this project was supposed to help with a system change project, which we did accomplish, and it informed the interventions. And one piece was like, there's people would always talk about the phone call, and they would have the phone call when they would hear about their cancer diagnosis. And that would be a critical piece because of where it happened. Like, did they have people with them? Was it on a
Mhm.
Friday? And then they would have to wait till Monday to get the response. Like, all these things were happening. And so that, like, having that knowledge of, like, okay, this point is there's something going on with how people are getting shared their diagnosis, then that fed into our project where we were hitting different milestones. We have like, we're really following milestones for cancer patients. And so making sure that's a critical time of how we could change their experience from that piece by maybe not doing a phone call or making sure that they had someone next to them or with them. So we really thought through about these like different pieces along the journey of like what could be impacted. And then they did some shifting in how they manage care, which was like done by a patient navigator to help people at those critical points. So that's like one piece, but there's many other examples of how it just like fed into the system change interventions along the way, and that actually the hospitals that we work with ended up keeping some of those practices in their system after a project was over. So really making things sustainable.
As you describe it, I just have two words come to mind is one generative, that it just seems like it
Mhm.
just produces so much, but it also just seems like there's kind of a emergent energy that's going on for you and your team as, scholar researchers as you're doing this.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's helping us be creative. I know lots of people get stuck on like what to do next. They like code data or do the regular things they're told to do, but then they don't know how to really analyze it, like really get in there and see how things connect. And so I really love playing around with different ideas of like how can we see connection between the data? How can we really dive into their stories? And kind of like not split it up, but like maneuver it in ways so we can see a story kind of come to the forefront. Hmm.
I love the expression "get in there." Oh, we're gonna shift gears a little bit and kind of contextualize in Curious Eye, but I just want to check in with Paul and Jeff. Just anything that's come up so far that either of you want to like just kind of ask a quick follow or note before we shift into our next area.
Yeah, so I guess I have a question, Kristen, about how do you think your course prepares people to move forward with their own research? I'm thinking of like immediate takeaways as well as like long-term benefits.
Hmm. Well, I think the one like short-term benefit would be that, or immediate benefit would be that people are able to have another tool to really look at their data in a way that might be informative. I think the long term benefit is that this is allowing people to really dive more deeply in how systems function and how that may impact the people that are using that system and be able to make changes. Because I think we do a lot of research for research's sake, but like the whole goal, particularly in public health, is this push towards justice and social justice and change for the betterment of health for populations. And so I feel like this is a way to really hone in on interventions that are going to be what people truly need. And really, that's not fixing the people, it's fixing the system. So if we really look at it from a systems approach or looking at inequities through a structural lens, this is like helping us get to that place where we fix the structures. So
So
that's what I'm hoping.
what I'm hearing also from you, Kristen, is that not only is this helping understand systems and interventions, it's also expanding our qualitative lens, our qualitative thinking, and thinking about trajectories. And a lot of times qualitative research is like really fragmented, and you're kind of connecting all these pieces, and I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Right where Paul just left off, we think a lot about the courses, and there's 18 courses, and people come and have to choose where am I going to be. This fits a category of courses that we've called refining your qualitative lens. And to
Hmm.
follow up a little more on Paul's observation, how do you, because let me step back for a second. When people enroll, there are a lot of people who just are all practical. Like, I have this project, I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm doing. I never did research. My boss, we never did research. All of a sudden, this county officer tells me we should do this thing called qualitative research. And now I need you all to tell me what to do when. And they're just kind of all, but there are
Mhm.
other folks who take courses and we see them a lot and they're
Mhm.
interested just kind of in what it does for their mind, their development, and what now that I know I can think about things in this way and I've done this method, what does it open up for me? So just thinking about that expression, refining your lens as a qualitative researcher, what do you see potentially happening for folks as they not just listen to what you do and don't try to imitate everything Kristen does exactly, think about possibilities? In what ways do you see this course as helping folks refine and polish and expand their qualitative lens?
In order to really benefit the most from this class, I think that you really you really want to dive in from a mind of like something like trying to take away some of the thinking you may have had about how qualitative research should be analyzed and stepping back and trying to be really thoughtful about what the data is telling you to do. Because really, this method was born out of us looking at the data, playing with it, and it telling us what to do and what would be the best way to get to our end goal. So I think if people come from that kind of like openness framing and really just really explore what this could be, that they would get a lot out of it. Um, and that they don't I know people like prescription and I'm like all about not prescribing things when it comes to qual, like they doesn't have to be an A to Z kind of steps, but it's really adding to thinking about this toolbox we have with like sort and sift and think and shift. There's so many layers on like what I've learned through sort and sift and think and shift that really play into how I'm looking at data using more like the systems mapping framing, where it's just another way to analyze your data. You use visuals and diagrams and all these things to look at data, and the diagram would be your system, a map of what that system looks like and what components are in it. So I really see it as like just an additional way to open your mind to the possibilities of what the data can tell you to do and really pull you in a certain direction.
It just seems so aligned with what happens in the world when in the areas you study, what's going on day to day for the folks who are talking to you and sharing their, experiences and everything. None of it's
Mhm.
prescriptive, even if
Yeah.
it was meant to be, both in
Mhm.
terms of kind of what's happening with their personal situations and then their experiences. So your posture of, you know what, I need to be open and flexible. It just seems to make it's so smooth. It just seems like it makes so
Mhm.
much sense given
Well,
the
yeah.
complex nature. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel smooth in the process, but but
Yeah.
once you get to talk about it, you get to see like how things kind of just coalesced and made and just became and what happened. And I love that it's like not it's we didn't force our practices or what we knew on the data, but really like say like how is this data different? What is it speaking to? Kind of questions can we answer if we look at it in different ways? And allowing that to be our guide, that's I think very important, very helpful.
It's awesome. It's great. Yeah, and I like the way you cast kind of how this will fit for folks and kind of the a little bit of, you have to have thoughts and reactions and kind of evoke a certain mindset going in. And it's nice. You really are preparing well for thinking about the reality of this kind of work and
Yeah.
what it
Hmm.
means and what you
No,
have to be prepared for. Yeah.
yeah, it just reminds me of being a community engaged researcher. We kind of say like if you don't like change, it's going to be really hard or do things in the moment.
Yeah.
There's really hard for you to navigate. And I feel like the same thing for qualitative. Like if you don't have the knack for like being open minded and unrestricted in your thinking and approaches, then sometimes it's going to be harder for you to get to the kind of quality analysis that you can get to using some of these more advanced techniques.
Yeah, so the nature of what you study is not something you can an approach upon it, and it's not
Mm-mm.
even as simply as react to it. It really is reacting with what's
Yes.
coming with forward with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so exciting. It's great. So we think about our scholar instructor team and kind of their evolution and placement and all these kinds of things. So one of the things we were wondering is you mentioned you do mixed methodology and
Mhm.
you're just learning more about you. I love that your mind's always been curious in such dynamics ways. It makes sense that you went on for a PhD and are doing what you're doing. So what do you wish someone had told you about qual inquiry
Mhm.
when you first were kind of thinking maybe this isn't just numbers? So yeah, out of the gates, what would have been cool
Oh,
stuff for you to hear?
I think I think well, first like had very in public health there's very limited classes that we had access to like in the study and like I once I got into it I kind of like I was doing this a while ago like when I was an undergrad and I did interviews of people who had lupus and wrote about that and listened to their providers. So it's like I've been doing some of these things for a while, but I wish I would have had a one more training period and in school. And then the second thing I wish I would have known is probably like how involved you can get into people's lives from like this one interaction, like the connection you
Yeah,
can feel, and really preparing yourself for that because like it can be really like invigorating, but it also can be like take so much energy. So it's like learning that kind of pacing of collecting data and taking care of yourself during the process is like something that's like critical that I've built over time. But I wish that more emphasis was put on that because a lot of it's just like this is
yeah.
how you collect the data, this is how you do this, and not how to when you as an interviewer or facilitator or whatever, how you're dealing with the situation.
Yeah, it's great. And really developing a support community for yourself among other researchers and things like that, in
Mhm.
addition to a support community outside of
Yeah.
academia and outside of your professional
Mhm.
folks, really getting a sense of that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
it's wonderful.
Mhm.
People always, researchers get nervous about will people want to talk to me? Will they accept my project? And who's not really enthusiastic about being invited to talk about something that was meaningful to them, that they experienced in a
Mhm.
deep way, and here's someone who listened and really carefully put together, hopefully something useful from what it is that
Yeah.
we learned. It's just a great gift. So, Jeff, I wanted to check in with you because I know there's something that you've been wondering from all the scholars, and just wanted to kind of follow
Mhm.
up this
Right.
notion, Kristen, about kind of you and you as a qualitative community person.
Yeah, Kristen, I feel like your answer to this is probably woven throughout everything we've already discussed.
Okay.
But sort of wondering what keeps you committed to qualitative inquiry after all your time in this field.
I really love hearing people's lives and what they're going through. And even though I do a lot of research with maternal health, so oftentimes it's really hard topics and hard experiences folks and challenging experiences people had, it's just like having that intimate time that they're sharing with you is like such a gift. And then being able to like learn from their stories. Like sometimes I learn stuff about myself just in the process and from reading their stories and then being able to take that and put it like on a wider platform and share with the world what a group of people may be experiencing and how we can maybe able to help them. It's just like it's such a privilege to be in that space, and that's why I stick to it because I think I have some training in epidemiology, and I know that I can pump all the numbers in the world from all these large data sets, but if I don't have a context and how people are really living and breathing these issues, then it's hard for me to really create solutions that are going to be helpful to them. So I feel like this, like being able to listen and share what they have learned in their lives is just like really critical for us doing better for the populations we serve.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
So as we wrap up, we have a thought question for you, and our whole team has been thinking through this. Why qualitative inquiry in 2026?
Oh my gosh, it's a must. It's a must because like there's so much information that's fed to us that is fake and false and not true, and everyone on the internet thinks they're a scholar and they just share all these types of things. But I feel like when you hear like really honest people's lives and like what's going on, that you just have a better sense of like really like practically what's really going on in our world. And I don't think we get enough of that because it's hard to always tell what people post on Instagram or YouTube is like real
Yeah.
are an honor. And I feel like the work that we do as qualitative research is really trying to get at that truth, that real truth and honesty of people, how they are just being and functioning in this world and all the things that are going on. So we must have it. It must continue. I think more people should be trained in it and like truly trained and not just, bypassers in this work. And there'll be I think it's just critical. So for us to learn, like if we don't continue listening to people's stories, we're not gonna move, grow as a nation, a world, or community because we're pushing down people's real lived experiences. So, mhm.
It's beautiful. It's great. Oh, I just want to check in with Paul and Jeff and see if there was anything else you were curious to check in with Kristin on before we close out for the day.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to this course, Kristen. I think it's just such an interesting blend of ideas. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, my friend. It's always great. Good excuse just to hang out together in such a deep, thoughtful way, and pretty exciting to watch this kind of continue to grow and being put forward. So much
Mhm.
appreciated, and we're honored to continue working with you. So
Thank
thank you so
you.
much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jeff. And we'll close it here for the day.